Auspices of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, Ssanu, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, Nasu, resolved to embark on a one-week warning strike nationwide from this week, Monday 19th, and it will end tomorrow, Friday 23rd August, following the directive of the Joint Action Committee of Nasu and Ssanu to all branch chairmen of the unions across the country. Now, according to news report, on Friday 16th August, the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities had earlier planned for a nationwide protest on July 15 ahead of an indefinite strike over the failure of the federal government to implement its agreement with them. The agitation is coming 4 months after the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, ASU, suspended their own 2-month-old strike. The unions had previously, on 7th of the month, of this month, gave a 14-day ultimatum demanding actions from the federal government on the following issues, such as payment of earned allowances, university staff schools matter, renegotiations of the 2009 agreements they had with the federal government. They gave notice to embark on the strike. It had announced earlier if no action was taken. According to the unions, the 5-day strike was necessitated by the refusal of the federal government to attend to their demands after the expiration of a 14-day ultimatum given to the authorities. Ssanu and Nasu are demanding 30 billion naira, which is part of their old earned allowance from 2009 to 2018. Ssanu National President Samson Ugoke reportedly accused the federal government of complicating the implementation of its agreements with the union and the non-academic staff union Ssanu. He said the government's failure to agree to their demands for the payment of 30 billion naira would lead to what he described as mother of all strikes. And this, perhaps, is still a child's play. It's a warning strike, after all. So we're going to have a very interesting conversation ahead of us. Now we have Ngige as the returning minister of labor, and we don't know how this will pan out. Wemimo, I'm seeing a showdown because
Very possibly.
the union said they didn't want Ngige to come back as labor minister, and he's back as labor minister.
Yes, he is back. I'm sure the unions are sharpening, their swords. Say, oh, we're going to have it, dig it out with you this time. He had quite a moment with labor union leaders in the past 4 years, over 3 years. But we also hope to have Comrade Anthony Eliago join us. He's a PRO Ssanu from Unilag. Let's start with Comrade Yusuf Ademola. Tell us exactly what are the clear agitations that you have? There have been allegations of Ssanu and Nasu always competing with ASU with strikes. I mean, so once ASU returns from a strike, Ssanu just rests for 2 weeks and boom. We also have our request. What is the request right now? What's the agitation about?
Thank you very much. I think, you have, analyzed, you can see that there have been series of agitation on the part of ASU and on the part of Ssanu. So it means things are not well within the educational system. Because it's a situation where you have crisis within the university system, then what you talk about the general educational system in the country? Because these are the people that are supposed to, promote the educational development. And if within us we are having a kind of probably crisis, which is caused by the federal government, I think something is wrong somewhere. Well, let me say this, that the non-teaching is embarking on a 5 days warning strike based on the fact that the federal government has failed to implement, the agreement signed in 2009. This is a document that is signed by the federal government.
Let me have a look.
In 2009 between Ssanu and the federal government. So they have failed to implement the agreement, failed to go by the court judgment on the staff school, and failed to come back for renegotiation, because part of the agreement is that there will be renegotiation of the agreements after every 3 years.
What are the terms in these agreements? Please tell us.
Yes, a summary.
Try and just summarize.
For the purpose of this program, let me just pick the 3 that we are embarking on now.
Right.
Full implementation of the agreement and allowance. Then 2, reinstatement of primary school teachers back as directed by the competent court of law of Nigeria, and 3, renegotiation of the agreements.
Okay.
So
I'm looking at page 14 of this agreement. Thank you for bringing this along. By the way, it helps us with this conversation. I know the issue about the university staff school is one of the agitations right now. And here on page 14 of this paper, talking about the university staff school, it says here, number 1, the university shall bear the full capital and recurrent costs of university staff primary schools. The universities shall, without recourse to government, bear the full capital costs of university secondary schools, while parents bear the full recurrent costs. Occupational hazard insurance policy. This was agreed that each university governing council shall institute occupational hazard insurance policy for Ssanu members who are regularly and routinely exposed to various forms of hazards in the performance of their duties. This puts the work on the universities. So why are you asking the federal government?
Now, good. You see, if you look at it, that the federal government for the primary school will bear the capital expenditure and the recurrent expenditure for the primary school.
It reads here that the university shall
for
bear.
The primary, yes, the university. By university, you are talking of the federal government.
The federal government.
Because the federal government established the university.
Right.
Okay. So if the federal government established the university, then the federal government should fill the bill as stated in the agreements. Unfortunately, this same federal government, took Ssanu to court on the issue of a primary school, asking for the interpretation. They took us to court, saying that it is the responsibility of the council. And we now ask them, who constituted the council? Who put the council in place? Who established the university itself? So at the end of the day, the federal government took us to court, but we got a favorable judgment from the federal government.
From the court?
From the court, of which the federal government did not appeal to the judgment. So, but up till now, the federal government has refused to reinstate all these primary school teachers back. Some of them have died. Unfortunately, some of them have died.
Were they sacked?
Some were sacked. There are some universities who are still in one way or the other. Take for instance, Unilag is still grudgingly, let me put it that way, managing the situation. But the responsibility is that of federal government.
Have you had conversations with the university management, the Senate, the governing council, like you said? Are they unable to run
the situation where we are is between the union and the federal government.
Who is the direct?
That is,
yes.
So we don't even have much to do with the management.
Just to be clear, who are your members? Because a lot of people might not actually know how deep this strike goes in our tertiary institutions. Who are the members of Ssanu and Nasu?
Now, our members are the administrators, those in the administrator, that is, those in the admin, those in bursary, and for the at both junior and senior, level. So we are the non-teaching staff.
Non-teaching staff of
all
the universities.
Of all the universities in Nigeria.
Indeed.
Then you have the academic, purely for academic.
The 14-day ultimatum that you gave to the federal government, was there any interaction, any negotiation whatsoever?
There was a meeting between the national body of the union, the JAC. We have a JAC.
Right.
So the JAC had a meeting with the PAMSEC, because there was no minister in place.
Right.
But the meeting was a kind of verbal agreement, which we are not, in tandem with.
Tell us the outcome of the meeting. From
the outcome, the PAMSEC said they are ready to concede to our demand. But telling us verbally is not enough, because we have been deceived before. So we have been deceived. You see, we don't like strike. Nobody enjoys strike. We don't like strike. We are parents. I want you to understand. So we are parents. We have students. We don't want them to be at home. So we always, feel for them. But a situation where we are put to the wall, we have to, do something.
But you said the PAMSEC
gave us verbal
an assurance.
Yeah. So we are not.
That the government will accede to
so
your demand.
So we want something, concrete. Already the agreement that they signed endorsed, They have not even what do you call it?
Implemented it.
And somebody is giving us another verbal,
In
something.
2017, Dr. Chris Ngige, the returning Minister of Labour and Employment, said the federal government has met all the demands of the three non-academic staff union of staff unions of universities. That's Nasu, Ssanu, and Nats. According to Ngige, the government, let me quote him, has not only fully met all the 12-point conditions raised in the memorandum of settlement reached with the non-teaching staff of federal universities on September 2017, but has also complied faithfully with all the timelines for the implementation of the agreement. So tell us about the memorandum of settlement. Those 12 points raised, have they really been fulfilled?
Have they been met?
Well, Ngige is a politician. What do you expect him to say?
Did he lie?
Yeah, what do you expect? He boggled the agreement.
How do
Yeah,
you mean?
when President Jonathan was in power, and there was discussion on the agreement of all the union. So after the discussion, an agreement was reached, and Jonathan released money to the university. He didn't release money to a particular union. So Ngige boggled the agreement, and that is why we find ourselves where we are.
When you say boggle the agreement,
what I mean
how?
by boggle the agreement is
exactly.
that how can you give a union, a particular union, money?
You mean ASU?
ASU. You don't do that. There is a laid down procedure.
Was
There is
money
a way
given to ASU?
Yeah, money was given to ASU.
But
So
ASU
the
has
union-
denied that money was not given to them. That was given to
of
the
course,
universities.
They were given the money.
ASU was given the money.
ASU as a union was given the money. The money is supposed to go. There is a channel through which you pass the money.
You are confirming to us that ASU collected the money from the federal government.
They were given money as union. I'm telling you this. So therefore, whereas the money is supposed to go to, at least from the whatever Accountant General of Federation, or from the ministry to Accountant General, then to NUC, then to the various universities. Not to a particular union for that matter.
So if ASU received this
created-
money, how come the other unions did not challenge ASU? Because we've had ASU on this show, members of ASU, and they've told us that they did not receive the money, that the monies were given to the universities.
When what we are saying is, when we say the money was given to the ASU, it's not that somebody, collect the money in cash. But what we are saying is that the money given, to ASU, supposed not to go to them. It's supposed to go to the university, and the university has our data, both academic and non-academic.
Right.
They know our level, and they know where we are, where we stop. So they have to pick it up from there.
So the money is with ASU as a union.
The report, I think we have to set this very clearly.
Yes.
The report we got was that the federal government gave universities monies, not ASU. That's the report we got. That the federal government gave universities. Achike, you've been
look. In some of the battles that have been fought by Nigerian workers, the Joint Action Front has been involved. We have not exactly interacted so much with the Nasu and Ssanu and the rest, but I'm aware that at least we followed some of their struggles, and we've also given solidarity. And I know that the education summit that was organized with ASU maybe 4 or 5 years back was also done to a large extent in conjunction with virtually all the unions in the university system, including ASU, Ssanu, and that held in Abuja. And I think that was a step in the right direction then. I was part of that particular meeting. There is no way. I think there is an issue here. Confusing something that is confusing in the whole thing. ASU could not have gotten money directly as a union from the government. First of all, now that money that was given, you have to ask yourself: was it money that was given for ASU, for Ssanu, for Nasu, and all of that? Because already you now have NAT. You have ASU that was engaged in. With the federal government,
right,
over condition of service and so many other things that had to do with their own condition of service. And on the basis of that, money was released. As at that time, there was no negotiation with Ssanu and all the others. So Ssanu, ASU, NAT, Nasu were all not part of that negotiation with the federal government. So there was no way the federal government would have released money that would have gone to all of these unions.
Right.
You understand? So Ssanu has a different relationship, and Nasu with the federal government.
Right.
So that's why when they have issues, they write directly, to the ministry, and then they engage in discussions with the ministry. And on the basis of negotiated settlement, money is released for the purpose of that negotiated agreement. So I think, I don't believe that he's trying to say that money was just gotten and given directly, to ASU, to the ASU leadership.
Okay, clarify this. When you say that money was given to ASU, what exactly do you mean?
I've explained that,
I think he has.
No, I need him to clarify
think
himself so people don't get this mixed up.
At a point of negotiation,
Right.
okay, ASU was treated, different from other workers, and as a result, money was released to them. I'm still saying it. If I'm saying that money is released to them, it was released based on the negotiation they have with the federal government.
Exactly. Right.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. You are
So,
saying that ASU as a union received
so,
money from the federal government.
Yeah, so they released. Federal government released money to them. Okay, and at that point, okay, we are also about to move. The federal government told the non-teaching staff that, look, don't bother. Okay, you just take it easy. Whatever we agree, definitely we take care of you.
Yes, it's true.
That was the what Ngigi, what do you call it, promise. Unfortunately, he could not, keep to that promise, and that led to our, mind you, the strike was suspended. It wasn't that we have, we only suspend the strike. So the strike we are embarking on, we are resuming the one we have suspended because of the inability of the federal government to keep to their promise.
Right.
So so the point I'm making is that at a point, money was based on the negotiation with ASU, money was released to them.
Right. Let's talk about your earned allowances. To me, this is like one of the major issues out of all the agreement points that you outlined in your agreement. How much are we looking at here? And what actually, when you say allowances, what are you referring to? What are those things that you refer to as earned allowances? I know for medical doctors, I know for lecturers, I know for all of these things, but for non-teaching staff of universities, what are those activities that culminate into an earned allowance?
Well, we have so many, items under earned allowances. Take for instance, teaching practice is there.
Teaching practice.
Yeah,
Okay.
field trip is there, and and some other, if you go through the agreement, you see those items.
All right.
Okay? Hazard is also there. Okay, so it's, that is why we call it earned allowances. And mind you, it's part of the corporate work that we are doing.
Right.
It's not like it's a Christmas gift sort of.
Right,
Okay?
right.
So that is, and the national body for now, based on the current strike that we're backing on, is asking for 30 billion from the federal government.
30 billion.
30 billion
For
yes.
the earned allowance.
Yes.
Anyways,
For the non-teaching.
for the non-teaching staff.
Throughout the federation.
All through the federation.
throughout the
Will that be is that sufficient enough? Because it's one thing to want to collect 30 billion for end allowance, and that will settle all the end allowances, backlog of end allowances. Are you talking about a part payment or the complete payout of end allowances?
What do for now, for this current one going on, it's an ongoing thing. It's still an ongoing
I don't
thing.
understand.
Yeah, what I mean by an ongoing thing is because part of they have been paying in a staccato form, okay, part of the arrears of the money, okay. They have not even started the full implementation of it because by the agreement, they are to be implementing it every month at the rate of 30,000 for senior and 15,000 for junior, okay. So by the national body calculation, as of today, so we are requesting for 30 billion from the federal government.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed. Very quickly now, your warning strike ends tomorrow. What happens next?
yeah, we are going to review the situation. Okay, of course, thank God the ministers have been appointed, so to say, even though We are not comfortable with the two ministers returning back to the one returning back to the education, the other one to what do you call
Labor.
it? Labor. We are not comfortable with two of them, but probably maybe they must have learned one or two lessons. Then, with this opportunity, let's give them a benefit of doubt and see what we, come out.
What do you mean by benefit of doubt?
Well, I believe that they should be able to review what has happened in the past,
Okay.
what transpired, why is it that we see the problem is still on, and come with a concrete, solution this time around.
Are you going back to the
because,
negotiating
a
table?
situation where you create a dichotomy within the system, it's not the best. We don't have problem with ourselves within the system, mind you.
When you say within the system,
we don't have problem whether ASU and non-teaching. Non-teaching.
You mean between the unions?
We are together.
Is that
NAT,
true?
NAT is not with you on this strike.
Is that true?
No, of course.
Why is NAT not with you on this strike?
What are the level of relationship, so to say? You understand? We are together. But
why is NAT not joining Ssanu and Nasu on this strike?
you see, while we have general interest, we also have specific.
Yeah.
So you can pull out
Yes.
if we are not. You are not getting your specific interest. Are you okay? So not probably feel that they are not
Directly
for one reason or the
affected?
other. For one reason, of course, they have been collecting the money. They have been collecting part of the hazard every month since the agreement started on their part. So therefore, not may not feel too much concern, But we are not bothered about that.
Let's talk about the method of your agitations. There are instances when your unions have made efforts to cause disturbances in the school. In the past 2 years, when you're down twos, there is no lights. Let's give an example. January 2018, there was blackouts at Obafemi Awolowo University. Shortly after resumption, students were forced to prepare for their second semester exams using torchlights. In fact, the Dean of Student Affairs of the university reportedly urged the students to adjust and learn to read their books anyhow. In Unilag, there was also blackouts in February 2018. The union also shut some classrooms down to register their grievances. Do you consider that your method of your approach in expressing your grievances might affect the academics of these students and the way they can learn? Because ASU is not on strike, so they are still in school.
Well, really, when we are on strike, it means we are withdrawing our services. You see, when we are withdrawing our services, definitely it will, directly or indirectly, affect the student. Okay, so therefore, what is the essence of strike?
If not to
It's
affect
just
everybody.
to put up your grievances and let somebody come and look at it and provide a solution.
To let your role be felt.
Yeah.
Let's go on a very quick break. We have some more questions for you coming up, especially from the side of the government, issues the government has raised regarding Ssanu and Nasu in the past years. We have with us in the studio one of the union members who is telling us exactly why this strike is ongoing and what will happen afterwards when the strike is suspended. What arguments will they be having with the federal government? We have in the studio Comrade Yusuf Ademola, who's a former vice chairman, Ssanu in Unilag. We also have Achike Chude here with us in the studio looking at this issue together. You can join us via the phones and also leave us your comments on our live stream on YouTube and on Facebook. You can see your comments there already. We'll be able to read some of them shortly. I would also take your calls. On Twitter, you can use the hashtag Crossfire when you're trying to reach us. Your calls are coming in. We can see them, but that will be after this break. Do join us again. And you're welcome back to 99.3 Nigeria Info. This is the Morning Crossfire, your number one news, talk and sports station. We're bringing you an update on the ongoing Nasu and Ssanu strike. And we have in the studio with us Comrade Yusuf Ademola, who's a former vice chairman, Ssanu in Unilag. Achike Chude is also here. We have joining us now Comrade Anthony Eliagu, who is the PRO, Ssanu in Unilag. Good to have you here, sir. Good morning. Please speak to your microphone. All right. So remember that we're live on Facebook and Twitter. On YouTube also you can watch us and you can listen to us via live stream on our website, nigeriainfo.fm.
Right.
We'll take your calls shortly. We see the lines buzzing and comments on Facebook. And you can reach us just in a moment. Welcome back. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I am Sheriff Quadry.
Okay, let's go to Comrade Anthony Eliagu, who's just joining us. Comrade Yusuf has done quite some work elaborating
Yes.
about what this strike and the agitations are about. And I raised earlier on a comment made by Dr. Chris Ngige, who said all the agitations have been resolved. Let me start by asking you what your impression is of the new or returning Minister of Labour and Productivity.
Yes, I think the return of the Minister for Labour and Productivity is most unfortunate because his role has been unfriendly with the labor unions, and he's acting a script because that is what the federal government wants him to do. So his return to the ministry is most unfortunate because he has not done well to.
If he's doing what the federal government wants
Exactly.
him to do, then he's doing a good job because he's employed by the federal government.
Right.
But what would the unions rather have the Minister of Labour and Productivity do?
The Minister of Labour is expected to listen, to be honest, and to do well in the interest of workers. But that is not doing. What he's doing is dreaming. He's dreaming the workers and the union leaders. And that is why I said he's acting the script of the federal government. And that is quite unwelcome, unfortunate, and not acceptable to the labor unions.
So tell us about the current status of negotiation between your union and the federal government as it stands today.
Yes, in 2009, there was an agreement
Right.
between labor and the federal government. This agreement is renewable within 3 years, and they have reneged 3 times now, because if you count from 2009 to date, they ought to have done something meaningful, but they have not done that. The agreement between federal government and labor is the matter of end allowances, which they have not paid. End allowances is an allowance which we have earned. It's not that they are giving us a bonus, okay? But the federal government will, allow us to go on strike before they give us peanuts. And that is the language the federal government hears. If you go on the negotiation table, they will agree they are going to do the needful. But when you leave the negotiation table, the story is a different thing entirely.
Not all universities are joining in this strike. Rivers State, no strike currently in Rivers State University as of Monday, for instance, and activities in institutions were not disrupted, according to Barry Jonah, who's the chairman, non-academic staff union of universities in Rivers State, Port Harcourt. He said his members will not be part of the strike because his institution did not receive the circular from the national office informing them to join the strike. So how widespread really is this strike, and how come some are joining in and some are not?
Yes, there is no federal university, federal institution that is not embarking on this strike.
Including Rivers State University?
Rivers State, if it is a state university, and he has, been, asked to do what he's doing, then that is quite unfortunate. We are not aware that any university is not embarking on this strike.
Is this just for federal owned universities or for all universities?
No, it is for all universities in the federation. But if he's saying that he's not going on strike, then he is a fifth columnist, I would call.
fifth columnist, he says. Okay, and now let's look at what will happen after. This is a warning strike. So this is like telling the government, we're coming, get ready for us. So when this is over, what is the next thing to do?
If this warning strike is over and the federal government is still not listening to the yearning and aspiration of workers, the workers will come to a round table with their union leaders, and a decision will be taken. And that decision will be for us to go on 2-2 strike. Like as I said, the federal government will only answer you when you go on strike. And that is most unfortunate. In a civilized environment,
is this right?
I expect that the federal government should, come to the round table, peaceful negotiation, and the aspirations of workers are met. The federal government should know it loses so much money, so much resources in the struggle for these our agitations for.
Achike, is this the only way to go? I mean, he has said this is the only language the government understands. And I mean, like I said, sometimes it looks like you can almost predict the pattern. As it goes on strike, you just breathe in and breathe out. Another union is going on strike. We seem to enjoy this cycle. And I know university students have a slang that when you get into the universities, just multiply the number of years times X, because you don't know how long you're really going to stay in school for, especially if ASU is going on strike. Is there any other way?
No, I think it would be unfair to say that unions derive joy in going on strike. Believe me, it's one element of their relationship with their employers that they dread most, having to call out their workers on strike. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of meetings. It takes a lot of travels. They have to go from one state to the other to convince, unionists,
their members.
Their members. They have to do that. It's not something, it's not just a matter of, we issue a decree by fiat and then everybody jumps on board. They have to have meetings. They have to advance reasons why this is the only way. So and then there's also the possibility of a fifth columnist, the government working to make sure that they break the strike. So these are the things that they are confronted with. I can talk about it comfortably because we have been involved in some of these strikes at the level of organizations. We have had to put people on the road when it comes to some of the ASU, related issues, and even some of the teaching staff. We have also weighed in because we realize that this goes beyond that. So we realize that this is about our country, it's about education. And don't forget that when Bill Gates came to Nigeria, he was looking at two sectors of the economy, of the political economy of Nigeria. He talked about healthcare. He talked about education. Education is the basis for determining the progress and development of a country, and it is key. So it must be something that should be of concern. But unfortunately, if you look at why nowadays you hear radio stations, television stations advertising educational institutions in Ghana, in Benin Republic, and the rest, and your heart does not bleed. A country that has done so well educationally, where you had even the best brains from Europe coming here, to study under in our environment, under our educational environment. Ghana today is doing. Sometimes it does about 1/3 of their national budget for education. So you have an idea of the level they have gotten to educationally, and that's why we send our children to and then the foreign exchange that is needed, that we need to conserve, we are sending it to other countries. So there are issues, there are critical issues. No union enjoys going on strike. It's a very difficult situation because once they do that, to manage that strike is also a problem itself.
Is there any other way to achieve these agitations without going on strike?
Obviously, over time, it would appear that our governments do not believe in the principle. I think it's a Latin word of pacta sunt servanda, and that is that agreements willingly entered into must be obeyed. And it finds expression in both civil canon and international law. And obviously, you have this situation, and they've told you over 10 years now, and like you said, because it is critical. that it's not just about that. The money they are talking about is the money they have worked for. There's an expression that every worker deserves his wages. So which other way? I mean, it's about negotiation, and they have waited for 10 good years.
I'm very glad you mentioned negotiation. And Comrade Anthony, let me come to you again on this one. The Minister of Labour said that the federal government has done its own part. It released 23 billion naira to the Joint Action Committee, and you cannot fault him if there is some kind of mago to so to speak, in the way that money was disbursed. Why are we faulting the federal government for this? Or is it true that the federal government really, actually, did release the sum of 23 billion naira?
The federal government did release the sum of 25 billion
25?
Naira. Yes, 25 billion naira. And non-teaching staff, 3 unions, the Nasu, the Ssanu, and the NATS, were given 20%
It's 5 billion, which is 5.
of these 25 billion, whereas 20 billion naira went to the other union. Imagine you have...
What other union you're talking
yes,
about?
that's ASU. Yes.
ASU.
Yeah, imagine you have 4 children and you have 10,000 naira to be distributed among these 4. You said, okay, you take 8. You said 1, take 8. Then the rest 3, you say, go and share 20. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You get it? So we are not...
So my question is, who shared? Who put up the sharing formula?
Okay.
Were the non-teaching staff part of those that worked on the sharing formula? How is federal government to blame for this?
Yes, like as I said, it is end allowance. And end allowance is shared by the university's authority, not a union. Okay. The salaries and wages department of each university is responsible for the sharing of money.
So why are you not having these arguments
with them?
And why are you having it with the federal government who has released the money? Why are you not asking the salaries and wages commission why they're not paying you what you should get?
The federal government released the money to NUC. And you can imagine that those in the office at NUC manipulated this money and they took it to a union of these 4. Okay? And federal government kept watching. So if federal government is in tandem with the 4 unions, the federal government should have welded in and say no.
What do you mean by manipulated? The money?
Manipulated because the money went to a union. It shouldn't have gone to a union at all for sharing.
Have you had questions from the NUC? I mean, you seem to be sure that the fault is with the NUC. Why are you dragging it out with the government?
We have been asking in federal government.
Yes.
How did you share this money?
Yeah.
Who share this money?
Yeah.
What formula or criteria did you use to share this money? No answer.
Was there no formula
answer.
agreed before the money was released?
Okay. Let NUC is a child of the federal government.
Yes.
Good.
You could say that even the federal government in this case.
If I said the money went to NUC, I'm equally saying that it is the federal government that shared the money.
Yeah.
No,
Good.
please, can I
Achike, go ahead.
Again, look, 25 billion was given from what they are saying.
Yeah.
Right.
When they had their separate negotiations with the government, how much was agreed on? Because you are talking of different unions. Sometimes some of them have specific needs.
Exactly. Was there a sharing formula agreed during the negotiation?
At no time did the 4 unions in the university come together, sit together with the federal government, and they agreed on 25 billion naira. At no time. It has never happened. And I don't see it happening really.
Is it true,
You understand?
Anthony?
Is
it true? Hold on. Let's clarify.
What ASU is saying in this case is that they negotiated for 25. I mean, for this, the money release.
Who is they?
I mean, the ASU. ASU claimed that they were the one that fought for this, for the release of 25 billion.
Was it done on behalf of the other unions or just for ASU?
No, that it was
negotiation on behalf of the other unions also.
The negotiation was done with ASU Let me be specific.
Yes.
That's
Are
what
you
I'm talking
okay?
about.
So they are not claiming, please, which to me is an insult, that they are only being magnanimous to give us 5 billion out of 25, billion released for ASU. That
My question is, before the negotiation started, was this done on behalf? Did you all have an agreement before the negotiation started?
We negotiate,
separately.
ASU will go and do their negotiation. We will go and do our negotiation. Sometimes we can come together under Jack.
So if you do have your separate negotiations and ASU negotiated and got 25 billion, wouldn't you say that they truly are being magnanimous?
No, they are not.
Tell us about that.
We didn't even ask for that 25 billion. I don't know the magnanimity that they are trying to. They need to call us. Call us and discuss with us. Call us and discuss. Don't tell us that you are being magnanimous or don't tell us that because of the negotiation that ASU has done, out of that negotiation, well, let's give you. No. We are not saying that.
So what is the sharing formula that you want?
No, that is, that is exact. I mean, for the money released now.
Yes.
We are even asking the federal government that what is even the formula the federal government used to share the money? Why do we have to take 20% and somebody will take?
But what do you
80%.
propose? What have you proposed to the federal government then to do?
Is there a formula?
Yes.
Is there a
For
formula
the money
that you
released
propose?
already.
No, we have the template, like he said, that we have the bursary department, of which we have the salary and wages. So they know what each and every one of us will earn. They know it. So they know the basis of which to give me based probably on my level, on my rank. So the university management or the bursary department, knows what each and everyone should collect.
The argument here will be
if the federal
that
government is releasing money, you see, if federal government is releasing money, they should release it to the universities, which they will now use the normal salary structure.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I'm going to throw an argument here. Yeah. So, I get where you are at the other side of the table. But the other argument would be that ASU is the Academic Staff Union of Universities. It's negotiated for the academic staff.
Simple.
So if they come back, you are non-academic staff unions. Okay. So if they come back and say, we've negotiated for our union, for the academic staff, for our members, and we're just nice, would like to give you some. What's the argument about?
Yes, let us go to the history. It was initially 20 billion naira. Okay? And when the money was about to be shared, federal government said, this money is for all of you. And ASU said, no. If this money is for all of us, then it's not enough. That was when the federal government added 5 billion naira.
And they gave that 5 billion naira.
No, and the federal government said, okay, this is 25 billion naira. Go and share it.
And they still maintain it's for all of you.
It's for all of you.
That's what you're saying.
It's for all of you. It was just them.
But they have to negotiate for all of you. That's the problem. At the beginning, were they negotiating for all of you?
They can't negotiate for us.
Exactly the
This
point.
is the way the federal government is causing division.
Why are you not negotiating separately now for your own?
No, federal government should take care of, of course, all the workers. But specifically, you must take care of each union according to their needs and demands.
Right.
Okay? So ASU cannot, you can't feel my pain. ASU cannot.
Let me read a comment to you before we take more calls. On Facebook, we have this from Ejitava Judge. It says, the 30 billion naira is only for federal universities. That's your agitation now.
Yes.
And he says the state universities are excluded and expected to negotiate with their state governments.
Yes.
So why are you asking them to join in your strike if they're not part of your struggle?
Right, they are part of the union, and an injury to one
is an injury to all.
So we all have a common, ground when it comes to the university system.
Right.
So therefore, they have to be part of the struggle.
Yes.
They have to be part of.
The phone lines are buzzing. Let's take some minutes and take some calls. If you want to join us now, here are the numbers.
Call us on 01-277-0993, 01-277-1993, 01-277-2993, and 01-277-3993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
is Nigeria Info. Yes, we are listening and we're live on Facebook and YouTube. We're taking an update on the ongoing Nasu Ssanu strike so you can understand really what the questions are. What are the unions actually demanding from the government? What are their agitations? That's why we have in the studio Comrade Yusuf Ademola, who's the former vice chairman, Ssanu in Unilag, and also Comrade Anthony Eliagu, who's the PRO, Ssanu Unilag. Also, we have here Achike Chude joining us on the show. We'll take your comment and also your thoughts from Facebook. We have
Mr. Muiwa on the line from Ogun State. Mr. Muiwa, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, from the discussion I've heard so far on this strike. Hello?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Please. It's somehow confusing and
Right.
It seems Nasu and the other unions, I don't know, they are not maybe well coordinated or something, but it's just confusing. It seems ASU has negotiated their own part. They've gotten what they want. They should do this and get what they want and stop dragging ASU into the matter. I'm not a lecturer or an academic staff union, but from what they are saying, it's obvious that there's a kind of confusion. They are not well articulated.
Comrade Anthony.
Yes. You see, we don't have specific issue with ASU.
Right.
It must be understood here. If federal government disbursed money and the money was given to ASU, then we are going to our own negotiating table.
And that's why you're asking for 30
And that is why we're asking for ours. We have no issue with ASU. It should be understood here. We don't have any ill feeling towards ASU. ASU demanded. ASU was given. We are now demanding ours. Initially, I told us that the language federal government is strike. If we're a responsible union and we didn't go on strike, federal government should deem it fit to say, okay, these irresponsible union members that did not go on strike to disrupt activities, they too deserve their own money.
Let's quickly take this call from Raymond all the way from Badagry. Raymond, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody in the studio.
Welcome, Raymond.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning, everybody in the studio.
Good morning.
This issue to me is a technical issue. And the man from the non-academic union supposed to understand that it's a technical issue. So he's supposed to handle it like that. If he says they also have gone to negotiate with the federal government and gotten the money,
Yes.
then the ASU now comes back and give them that money they gave them, 5 billion, as being generous. So I don't think that they should raise an eyebrow over it.
They have clarified that they're not raising an eyebrow now. They're asking for their money, making their own separate negotiations with the government now.
No, they should. And another thing is, he made it clear that also, after paying the federal government, giving them the money, they say this money is for all of you. Then they went back, say if it is for all of us, it's not enough.
Yes.
Then they now gave them another 5 billion. Then 5 billion they gave them means that 5 billion is the 5 billion that they gave to non-academic staff. So I don't think that they don't have anything to strike for.
Oh, but okay. Let me. I understand where he's going.
Right.
So this is it. ASU negotiated for about 20 billion naira. Got the government added 5 billion and said, so all of you go share the 25. Of course, that would not be enough because ASU got 20 billion. So the non-academic staff union now are asking for 30 billion because 5 billion would not be enough for them. But let's get back. And these are their earned allowances, by the way. It's not dash. It's not a bonus. We have Emmanuel on the line.
Bonus.
It's not a bonus. Emmanuel, we lost
Emmanuel's call. Let's
You can
move on
try
now.
again.
Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yes,
Good
sir.
morning.
Yeah, my name is Danison from Aja.
Welcome.
Yeah. You see, I've been a lecturer before.
Okay.
I didn't know that there is confusion between the academic and non-academic. The way it is now, they should go as one front when they are negotiating, not splitting. When this one has collected money, this one will now go, and this one go and collect this one. Then the federal government will be in a confused state. The whole university should budget the money for the entire university, and then the union should go as one and collect the money.
Right. Is this possible? Is this possible? Can we have a united front? Like we all, this is how much Ssanu needs, this is how much Ssanu and Nasu need, and negotiate at once.
When you say Jack, what do you mean? Are we still talking about the same united front?
Jack is a joint action committee.
Okay.
Joint
What does
action
that mean?
committee. That is when Ssanu, Nasu, and probably Nat, when we come together,
Okay.
under one umbrella.
So
That's for the
it doesn't
Because-
involve ASU.
No, it doesn't involve.
Do you
Ssanu.
ever involve ASU? Can you all go and negotiate? So
Well,
the
you
so
see,
the schools are not shut.
I don't want to bring ASU
let me-
here
let me-
because when we are bringing ASU, the audience might be.
You know why we're
seeing
bringing in
us as if-
ASU? You know why ASU must come into this conversation? 1 minute, Achike. ASU must come into these conversations because our listeners are parents and they have students in school. And if our schools are being, if academics is being interrupted, right now you're on strike. The school can barely function maximally.
Right.
So we have to think about the students.
Yeah, but
Can the unions?
yeah.
You need to agitate.
No,
Yes.
but you see, look, these are distinct, entities. These are separate entities,
Yes.
distinct entities.
Does
Even
that stop them
even
from negotiating at the
even if
same
they are-
time?
No, they cannot negotiate.
Why
because
not?
Their needs are different.
They are different.
So if we
Yeah,
let me explain this to you, Achike. The needs are different. So if we have a committee that says, so we have a paper for ASU, we have for Nasu, and for Jack,
please.
and we negotiate, it's
look,
impossible.
Look, let's just say. It's
Okay, let's go back to the phone. Samuel is here. They say it's impossible. It can't ever happen.
Samuel from Quadry, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Wemimo.
Morning, Samuel.
People need to understand what those people are saying. Federal government is the one who is causing this problem. When I tell you this money is for ASU, it's for all of you, and you say no, this is for us, and I put another 5 billion.
And say go
So
share
I
everything.
expect federal government to say, okay, if that will be the case, I will add 10 billion naira, and I will share it among the two of you, 50 million. As simple as that. Federal government is causing this problem.
Right.
When ASU have said this is for us, so they have to withdraw back and share the money once and for all.
Right.
They
Thank
are
you
the
so
cause
much.
of this problem.
Thank you so
Samuel.
much. Yamadi Godwin also thinks the same. He says, I think there's an unhealthy rivalry between the unions and the government is taking advantage of that. It's unfair and sometimes dangerous to prefer one child to another. So that's a comment from him here on Twitter. So this track is ending soon. This week.
Tomorrow.
You see,
Tomorrow.
I want to put something
Very
across,
quickly because we need to go now.
Like you said, that we don't enjoy going on strike, and if you go through the process it takes before we come to issue of even giving ultimatum, it takes time. We must have written series of letters calling on the federal government, inviting them. Let us discuss.
But if the government had gone through the right template of reviewing this every 3 years, we wouldn't even be here at all.
That's another thing.
We wouldn't even be here at all because there's a template to settle all these issues without even going on strike at all.
That's another thing. So,
well, that's the update on the strike, Ssanu Nasu strike, warning strike. It is ending tomorrow, and they've made their agitations clear. Thank you all for calling and joining on the conversation. We've had Comrade Yusuf Ademola, who's the former vice chairman, Ssanu Unilag, in the studio. Thank you for coming in, sir.
thank you very much.
Also, Comrade Anthony Eliagu is a PRO, Ssanu Unilag. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Achike Chude, always.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
He's an
as usual.
activist, so he's on the he's on that
I
side.
wanted to ask that question.
Oh, he's an
From
activist.
which angle is Achike coming from?
Thank you, Nigeria, for joining the show today. We'll be back with more tomorrow morning. Big
Right.
thanks to Zainab Yakin, Tosin Akinride, and Yvonne Okaifo for assisting. Tunde Andrews will be here shortly with Money, Business, and Economy. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry.
We'll see you tomorrow.